as we move through some time of meditation, some time of reflection, some time of receiving words, I invite you to turn your thoughts to this idea of not just belonging for ourselves, but how do we build belonging in and amongst each other. In fact, and I'm going to quote from our Unitarian Universalist Association, one of the ways that we build belonging is this idea of love being at the center of our faith. And they say this, they say, love is the power that holds us together and is the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our values through the spiritual discipline of love. So this morning is all about that. It's about practicing, as we know spiritual disciplines are about practicing. It's about practicing and reflecting on this idea of how do we place love at the center of our belonging. Before we turn our attention fully to our worship, though, I do have just a few very brief announcements for you this morning. Jan Searles would like to say a big thank you to everyone that came out yesterday to help polish the parish house and the sanctuary. Some of the work you won't necessarily see, it's hidden, but just know that the closets are cleaner and the upstairs is prepared for our children's program, and the weeds have magically disappeared. Just like my car, like I get in my car and it's all dirty, and then one day I get in it and it's clean, and I don't know how that happens. It's some kind of magic. What the magic is called, Jim Bennett, but so Jan would like to explicitly name Kevin and Sonia and Amy and Jeff and Camila and Tom and Julie and Janet. Anybody that has pulled weeds lately, thank you very much for them. And Bruce Ruby, thank you for climbing in the closets with me. And Danny Doucette, thank you for being the leader of our Green Hearts team. And just one other announcement, because it didn't make it into your order of service, and that is next Saturday we begin our solstice and equinox fires. So thanks to Dan, who's with us this morning, who is our fire god. We are going to 4 times a year have a ritual around the fire to acknowledge and celebrate our connection with nature and these times of the year, the equinox and the solstice. So that will be next Saturday, this coming Saturday. This coming Saturday will begin at 6:30, so join us for that. But let's turn our hearts and minds to worship this morning. I want to take us back just for a moment, even though we're going to be talking about placing love at the center and the practice of building belonging. I want to take us back to last week's worship theme and topic when we were talking about how we have to first welcome ourselves and build a sense of belonging with ourselves before we can offer that into the world. So my opening words this morning come from actually a friend of mine, Nina Manelson. She has a beautiful practice, a beautiful coaching practice called Body Peace to help women especially create peace within their bodies. And I thought this was so apropos to all of us. It's a poem she wrote called, If I Were to Invite Myself to the Table. So before I recite the words to the poem, I'll just invite you to take a breath with me. And then exhale and bring yourself into this place this morning, bringing all of who you are, all of what's been present for you in your life. Know that it is welcome and there's space here for you. So if I were to invite myself to the table. If I were to truly invite myself to the table, it would have to be a big table. A long, wide table with many seats, with space to welcome all parts of me. I would want flowers on my table, luscious flowers, possibly pink peonies arranged in one of those big, shabby chic vases, and have that casual but elegant look. And there'd be a bright white tablecloth, or maybe I'd want one of those bare rustic wood tables, the kind that oozes history and connection. Yeah, I think the worn table feels right because I want a sense of stability, a sense of continuity, to feel like I've been welcome here at my table for eons, even at the times when I could not give myself permission to sit down. I want to be able to be fully me at this table, I don't want to have to worry about making a mess on a white tablecloth. I want there to be space for my hunger, for my longings, for my joy and my grief, for all parts of me. But really what I want to know is that I am welcomed fully. I am not a guest. I don't have to stand at the corner nearby sneaking my dessert. I can sit, take up space. I want to invite myself to the table because that's where I'll be fully nourished. So may it be. So may all you feel invited to this table that we call Westminster Unitarian Congregation. I'm going to invite us to rise and body our spirit for our opening hymn. If you prefer to sit, you are totally welcome to do that as well. But if you would like to rise and stretch, we're going to sing hymn 131. It's in the gray hymnal. And if you're new to our reflective services, just a reminder that we do not use the screens, so the hymnals are there for you. This hymn is called Love Will Guide Us. Love will guide us. Please remain standing if you are standing, and let's join together in our unison affirmation for this congregation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service our mission. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So may it be. Please be seated. We always take time in our services to share joys and sorrows with each other. And I have to admit, I didn't check the basket back there. Nancy Reed is going to check for me. I apologize. I was doing my centering like the sign told me to do. It said sit down and be quiet. So that's what I did. So there are no written joys and sorrows. Just a reminder that you can do that. You can submit a joy and sorrow through our website or write something here. So in the absence of written joys and sorrows, I'm going to invite us into a moment of just heart centering, and then I'll invite you to come forward and light a candle for anyone that you are holding in your heart. But first, let's take a moment to center ourselves in our hearts, taking a breath. Throughout each of our days, there are many moments of joy that can trickle in. There are many moments of sorrow. As we listen or watch or read the news throughout the week, I am quite sure that you have experienced joys, sorrows, angers, frustrations, confusion, and perhaps deep sadness. So let's take this moment to allow ourselves to connect with our own hearts, with the breath of emotion that we hold. And I'll allow for a moment of silence here, and I'm going to invite you during that time to turn towards your heart and see what's there. Allow yourself this time and space to acknowledge, and in the quiet of your own mind, you can even put words to the emotions that you recognize and see there. And if there is someone in particular who has come to your mind's eye, I'll invite you to hold them in your heart and trust that it is a prayer to think of someone in our hearts. It is a prayer when we send to them loving kindness, thoughts of goodwill. And even if they, in this exact moment, do not know that you are offering that to them, I want you to trust deeply that we are so interconnected that they do feel your love. This is one of our spiritual practices here. In a moment, I'll invite you, if you'd like, to come up and light a candle in honor of that one that you are holding in your heart. And if anybody had a joy or sorrow that they wanted to write down but just did not get a chance, I'll leave the microphone on. Feel free to come and briefly share that with us. Going to light our final candle as our chalice. Again, I'm getting used to our new flow of services. I should have done this earlier, but I will make our final candle our chalice this morning, lighting it in honor of all of those joys and sorrows that may not be spoken, and indeed all the people that we are holding in our hearts today in this world. So may it be. Let's sing a prayer. For this one, I'm going to invite you to stay seated. It's a beautiful prayer. It's hymn number 75 in our hymnals. It's called "There Is More Love Somewhere." 95. Did I say 75? 95. It's 95. I picked this particular prayer, this morning because as I watched the news this week, it just started rising up inside of me. This prayer of where is the love? And I've been thinking of especially the children and families in Gaza, but really children and families and people all over the world who are in a state where there is pain and suffering around them and that they are calling out. So I'm inviting you to feel that with them this morning and call out for this prayer of seeking for love. I invite you to close your eyes, holding that prayer in your heart. A prayer for each of us, a prayer for each person on this planet, no matter who they are, no matter what pain they are experiencing, and even those who may not know that they are in a state of pain, who may feel a sense of victory or superiority. Let us pray for them too, that they find this inner connected love that we share. Again, I'll invite you into some time of silence so that you can explore your own heart and your own prayers for peace and love and joy in this world. As you feel ready, can gradually bring yourself out of your meditation, or just feel free to remain in the quiet of your own space. Sorry, I went from crying to laughing today. It's going to be one of those days. So I wonder if you've ever thought about what the world would be like if you ruled the world. What changes would you make on day one? I'm going to ask you all to ponder that for a moment. Just think of what the world would be like. Now that I'm a minister, my kids like to remind me how when they were growing up, I would constantly say that if I ruled the world, religion would be the first thing that would go. They like to remind me of my constant ranting and rambling on about the damage done in the name of religion and all the problems it has created. Well, that was, of course, before I discovered one particular religion. When I finally found Unitarian Universalism, I was surprised that an organized religion actually existed that aligned so closely with my views of the world. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And although there were many elements of Unitarian Universalism that I loved, two of its stated principles, which in those days, back in those days, were the defining statements of this faith. Two of these principles really stood out for me, and I'm going to guess if you know the principles well, as I know many of you do, you're going to guess which ones they were. First was the first principle. This is the idea that every person is born with and possesses inherent worth and dignity. That's how it was written. I interpreted this statement as saying that no one is outside of the primordial love and goodness of life. No one is born in sin. There's not a list of beliefs that we must embrace in order to be deemed okay, accepted, or to be saved from some eternal damnation. And the second idea I especially loved from the 7 principles was promoted by the principle number 7, the idea of interconnection. This principle stated that we are all part of an interconnected web of existence. Now, I interpreted this principle to imply both that what touches one touches us all, and also that the results of our actions are being felt in real time. That heaven and hell are both states of being that we have access to at every moment. That our actions matter, that it is our actions that rule the world. Now, although the official documents of the Unitarian Universalist Association have moved away from naming these ideas as 7 principles, the ideas themselves that we are all interconnected and that we are all inherently worthy, they continue to be core parts of this religion. And they remain as truths for me. And really, they feel like deep, abiding, just absolute truths. And truthfully, they're so abiding and deep for me that I don't even consider them necessarily a religious statement. To me, they just feel like common sense. And I've often thought that if I say these to anyone, that they would of course say, yes, of course. Of course we are all interconnected. Of course we are all good. But not so fast, right? Turns out that what is self-evident to one of us is not self-evident to all of us. Now, I may have shared this story with you before from the pulpit, I'm not sure, but it's worth recounting again as it continues to be a teaching moment for me. It was in Marietta, Georgia, where I served our UU congregation there, and I was part of the local interfaith clergy group. There were about 8 of us who met monthly to discuss our common calling and the challenges of our vocation, as well as to look for ways that we could work together across faith traditions. Now, in this group, I was one of only 2 women who attended the meetings. The other was a Congregationalist minister who joined the group about a whole year after I did. In the very first meeting that she attended, she was very open, and she shared openly about her identity. She shared that she was a lesbian. She shared that her partner was non-binary, and she shared that they were in the process of starting a family. Now, during the next meeting that she was there, it turned out that the group started to dip into theology, something that we were very hesitant to do. We didn't go deep, but just deep enough to acknowledge some of our differences. It was hard for many of my interfaith colleagues to wrap their heads around the fact that just because I'm a minister and that Unitarian Universalism is a religion, it does not mean that everyone, or really even most, of the people in my congregation believed in God, or at least not the same God that they spoke of. So I often had to remind them not to make grand pronouncements about how we are all the same in that one respect. And that part was all fine with me. I love those conversations. But it was what happened next that shook me. As we were leaving, one of the most conservative pastors in the group turned to me and said very proudly, he said, "You know the difference between your faith and mine, Deborah?" He says, "It is that yours is inclusive and mine is exclusive." Now, I'll tell you that I had to pause when he said this because it took me a moment to comprehend not just what he said, but what he really meant. Until that moment, it had not occurred to me that being exclusive was really a part of his core theology, as much as being inclusive was to mine. His statement made me realize that I had just assumed that everyone knew that being inclusive was just better, right? It is, right? But clearly, he was actually proud of his faith's exclusivity. Because he went on and he said to me, he said, "We don't just let anyone in." Implying that his was somehow an elite religion that you had to work to get into, where mine was shamefully opening its doors to anyone and everyone. His tone caught me off guard, and to be truthful, I don't remember what I said to him. I am sure it was so sorely inadequate. It's one of those moments I keep thinking back in my mind of what would I really like to have said in that moment. Turns out the next month when we got to our interfaith meeting, we were told that by another pastor who had talked to him that he would no longer be joining us. This pastor said that it wasn't him necessarily, but that it was his congregation who told him he was not allowed to meet with such an inclusive group. Of course, he did not explicitly call out our lesbian colleague or myself by name, but we knew who he meant. Encountering this brand of exclusion confuses me, and it frightens me. It confuses me because it seems so counter to the way the planet is created, right? Isn't the natural world one of inclusion? It thrives on diversity. All we have to do is look out these beautiful windows. It is not all the same. And that kind of exclusion really frightens me. It frightens me because when I look at humans, if we strip away these religious belief systems, what we find is a group of people with very similar things that they want out of life. Most people want joy, connection, family, safety, happiness, belonging. And I don't know how we survive as a species if one homogeneous group of people gets to decide who is and who is not worthy of having those things, either here on this earth or whatever comes next. Did we ever think we would get here, right? Where we are right now in our country? I know a lot of people would say, yep, saw it coming. Now, I do respect that different people have different views on the best way to organize societies. Absolutely. There's room for a lot of debate there. And I respect that we each have our own unique set of experiences that have shaped our worldview, have shaped our beliefs about the big questions. Absolutely. And I love that difference. And yet it does seem that there has to be a way to live within all that diversity and still have room for all of us. It seems that if we all have a desire to belong and feel connected and to feel safe and to have peace and have joy, that there must be something behind all that that we have in common that holds us humans together. Beyond any singular belief, is there some force that causes us all to desire those things? I believe there is. And that's why, although I did like the 7 principles I'm also really glad that the Unitarian Universalists from congregations around this country last year decided to vote on the recrafted statements of our faith and to be very explicit about what holds us. We name values of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, independence, and generosity in our statement of values. But the important part to me is not those values, because I think we could have picked different ones, many more, many less. The important part is what we say holds us. And I'll read it again. The statement says, love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. Love is the power that holds us together. There is a power, there is a force that holds us together. The statement goes on to say, we are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. And I love this statement. Okay, I would have wordsmithed it differently, but talk about that later. But I love the idea that we use this word love to represent that force that draws us together. We could have picked a different word, and I know some people have been debating whether love was the right word to pick, but let's just go with it, right? Love. It's a force that we all have experience with, and it is a force, isn't it? It's a force that draws us towards things, and I think it's a force that also pushes us outward, right? I love and I act on my love. This idea, of course, is not exclusive to Unitarian Universalists, and it's sure not new. The Apostle John, for example, has written, I know, here I go, quoting the Bible. That doesn't happen often. But John supposedly wrote, whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. Which I have to say was very you of John. I think he was you and didn't know it. And it's not surprising, as this idea of the force so large that it encompasses all, it's not just in Christianity, it's not just in UUism, it's in many faith traditions by different names and with a different feeling. But there's this sense that there's something. There is something. It's been part of faith traditions for eons. The Universalist side of our very own faith, we're very connected to this idea of something holding us together, very connected to the idea that God is love, right? The Universalist said that God is so loving, God is so much love, that of course everyone would be taken up into God's love after death. No exceptions, everyone. Of course, this was very heretical in the 1800s when Universalists were preaching this, and it's very heretical today. Many faith traditions don't want to consider that maybe we are all so born from the same substance that we return to that same substance, and that substance has an energy of love in it. And some of them will say, well, that sounds too easy. Your faith is too easy. You're going to get into heaven no matter what you do. And you welcome everybody without an admission card. Too easy. And to that, I say, yes. Yes, and can't we have both? Right? Can it be true that there is an all-encompassing force of love that takes us in, that we belong to no matter what, and that force does ask something of us, right? A parent loves a child, and can you please just empty the dishwasher? Or in my case, can you please just text me back? I love you unconditionally, and I'm asking something of you. And that is what this faith is more and more defining and grounding itself into. We get to have both. There's a wonderful book of essays I'm going to encourage you to look at. It's called Love at the Center. So since our changing and our wording of our principles and really defining this, it's a book of essays from a lot of different UU ministers and lay leaders and people in our congregations talking about how they experience the centering of love. How do we center and live into this dual space of knowing we are connected, knowing we come from a source of love, and acting on it? I'm going to quote Nancy MacDonald Ladd, the Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd, who says it so well. She writes, "What I am trying to do is make an argument that our Unitarian Universalist faith and history invites us to make promises with something other than ourselves, in this case, a commanding and irresistible force of love that will not let us go." So she's inviting us to not just recognize this force, but to make promises to it. She continues, "With whom am I in holy and accountable conversation?" That's her question to us. She says, ask yourself, with whom am I in holy and accountable conversation? I think that's a great question to ponder. If we truly knew that love is at the center, that we are 100% held and belonging to love, how would we live? And what is holding us accountable to how we say we want to live? I love the 12th century poet, Persian poet Rumi, who says, I think he wraps this up so well when he says, "Our task is not to seek for love, but to seek and find all the barriers we have put up against it." Right? We don't have to seek for love. It's there. 100% it's there. But guess what? We put up barriers against it. We do not like to think of ourselves as UUs as exclusionary, do we? But each time we do not act in accordance with the force of love, we are putting up barriers, right? We are keeping people out from our club when we put up barriers to our hearts. Each time we take the easy way out and we decide not to look at the harm that some are experiencing because, hey, my life is okay, we are putting up a barrier between ourselves and others. And part of the work as a Unitarian Universalist is to ask ourselves individually and collectively, what is blocking me? What is blocking us? And what do I do about that? So I'm going to invite you, as we get close to closing here, to just take a moment. If you'd like to close your eyes, it's fine, but take a moment and think about one specific way you show up, first as somebody that is inclusive and somebody that removes barriers. So in what ways have you removed barriers to love in your life and in this congregation? What ways have you acted on your faith and removed barriers to love? And then ask yourself, what obstacles have I put up that block me from love? When do I let the barriers stop me? So I'm going to invite you to just hold on to those two thoughts and do something very, 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 very scary. If you go to coffee and conversation, or if you go out to lunch with somebody, or sometime in this week, I want you to share those two things. Share with somebody, here's where I remove barriers, and here's some of the work I still need to do. And I want to invite you all into some very specific work to help us as a community remove barriers. In addition to supporting our justice partner, the Women Project, Rev Jay and I this month or the next month are going to issue you all a love challenge. We often encounter barriers to love when we lack knowledge about the harm others may be experiencing, or we just lack awareness about another's lived experience. So this is especially vital work in action right now, both in the immigrant community, who we will address a little bit later, But right now, we're going to talk about that harm that's happening in the trans community as trans people are being criminalized and victimized in this political climate. And even if you're not seeing that right here in your small circle, I want you to know that it's happening. I know 2 people who have chosen to move from this country for their safety, who are trans people. In your order of service today, behind the lyrics to our final hymn that we're going to sing in a moment, you're going to see a little QR code. I want you to go to this QR code. You have to register. The congregation paid for you to take this course. It's free. It's 3 little 30-minute parts. It's led by a trans person, and it's called Responding to the Anti-Trans Movement. It's from the Transforming Hearts Collective. There's a bigger course that they offer that I'll introduce to the congregation later in the year, but for right now, my challenge and Reb J's challenge is 100% participation from this congregation. If you call yourself a UU, I'm going to challenge you to get online and to take this course and to listen to this person sharing about their lived experience and offering us ideas for how do we respond to this anti-trans movement that is out there. In October, you'll see an ad for a Sunday or Saturday morning bagel brunch that Rev J and I are doing together, where we're going to invite the community to come together and share what you heard, what you learned, and talk about what we can do differently here and out into the world to put our love in action. So I hope you'll join me in that. Because it turns out that I really do like religion. And I think it should stay. Not because I like exclusive ideas of religion, but because I kind of think that in the end, we are all called by a similar force. It just may take some work for us to remember. And I'm going to leave you with the words from Reverend Gordon McKeeman, who offered his vision of our Universalist theology when he wrote this. He said this about the Universalist theology. He said, the image that they held, the image was that the last unrepentant sinner would be dragged kicking and screaming into heaven, unable at last to resist the power and love of the Almighty. And I think that's true of all of us. We're going to go in there kicking and screaming sometimes, but we all are going to be consumed by love one way or another. And I invite you to help make that a reality here. Let's keep love at the center. Let's not give up. It's a hard time right now. I'm not denying that. Do what you can. Retreat when you need to. Right? And hopefully come here. And if you ever feel a sense that there is a barrier here for you and your belonging, if you ever feel a sense that the community is not welcoming of who you are, I want you to come and talk to me, because I will bring that to the community, because I know this community and I know you all are committed to love. Yes? It's a reflective service, but you can call out. I did not bring my clock up. How are we doing on time? Because I really would love to do a final hymn if we have time. 9:49. We're going to close with this final hymn because I want to introduce it to you. It's called Love is at the Center. It's on the back of the sheet in your order of service. It's from our new virtual hymnal. I'll talk about that more, but please rise in body or spirit, and let's go out with this beautiful hymn called Love at the Center. If you'd like to stay in quiet, we'll leave quietly, and those of you that would like to stay for another 5 or 10 minutes of quiet reflection, you're able to do so. Let's carry the flame.